So welcome back to the session again, and thank you for staying with us. So Tarindu, our next topic is about land scams and how to avoid them, and other scams that you can avoid of. Yes.
Yes, Isuru. To talk about this, we have Mr. Kasun Karnanaik. He's an attorney at law of the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka, and he's a specialist in commercial and civil law in his practice. And he has graduated from Faculty of Law and in University of Colombo and has gained a LLB degree. And he's again a CIMA UK past finalist with a sound knowledge in management and finance accounting. Further, he has completed a certificate of capital market, gaining a sound knowledge on the capital markets of Sri Lanka. And again, he has completed a book called Case Law Index, which renders a sound knowledge of legal judgments to the legal and non-legal fraternity in Sri Lanka. And yeah, I would like to invite Kasun Karnanaik to begin this session. Over to you, Kasun.
Thank you, Tarindu. I think I'm audible enough to hear you. So, as also at first, I'd like to Tarindu for the nice introduction. Today's topic about fraudulent transactions with regard to land matters, because in this matter we should be very, very cautious. Why I'm telling like that? For a land transaction, real estate matter, we are investing a huge bucks of money. Sometimes that could be the only sum we have. That could be the money that we earned out of our total life. So we have to be very, very careful in such a situation. So let's start. At first, you should know how to protect you from these kind of fraudulent things, or uh, forget about these fraudulent things. Prior to fraudulent transactions or whatsoever, when you are going to buy something, buy a land or real estate, apartment, whatever, you have to do some kind of basic things. Those are I want to share with you. At first, when you are going to buy a real estate, ask from them a copy of the original deed. You are legally entitled to ask a copy of the original deed, and you are legally entitled to obtain from them a copy of the original deed. Without that, you cannot see what is this land, who are the owners of this land, what are the volumes, extracts registered in the land registry, and other kind of details. So at first, that is a must. You have to keep in mind. Sometimes people don't ask a deed, a copy of the current deed. Just they are going to the transaction because of the urgency, or they want to buy the land, or because of the fact that sometimes they don't know what they want to do. So number one is request a copy of the original deed from the other party that you want to buy the land. Then after you obtained a copy of the deed, what you want to do? Then you have to go to the land registry. You can do by personally, or by way of an attorney at law or a notary public. You can get this done. You have to search extracts. In Sinhala we say pattiru. Idang kacheriam pattiru pariksa karno. So you have to examine the extracts from in the land registry. In that part, you can understand who are the previous owners. Is this current owner? Is the in fact current owner? Are there any mortgages? Is there a litigation, court matter going on behalf of this land? Is there a caveat? Caveat means, is there any party who is interested in this land has registered a document called a caveat in the land registry, then you have to be very, very careful, because there's another party who is interested in this land, who is checking about this land, what is happening. So that part also you have to be very mindful. Then is there a season notice? Season notice means, let's say there's a mortgage or any other thing, then the court will issue a season notice against that land to seize that land. Then that is under the jurisdiction of the court. So again, you have to be very, very careful in that way. Also, when you are searching extracts, sometimes in the land registry, those extracts are destroyed for whatever reasons. Sometimes they are too old enough, or because of a fire have occurred in the land registry, or whatever reason, sometimes extracts are destroyed. In such a situation, if you want to go further with that land, then you can go for an insurance. There are 3 types of insurance. That's a separate part. Anyway, you can get advice when you are going to deal with in such a situation from your notary and the insurance service providers. You can get an insurance. Then in the future, after your transaction, if there is any adverse occurrence happen to you, then you can protect from that insurance getting a compensation paid. That is about extract. Then also under the extract part, I want to share with you agreement to sell. Also, when you are checking extracts volumes in the land registry, agreement to sales could also be there, which means that land another party has paid an advance or sum of money to buy it in the future. So then another interested party could be there for that land. So everything you can check in the land registry after you obtained the a copy of the deed. So the other thing I wanted to share with you, or in other words, the next step what you can go through when you are going to buy a land, you have to go for the relevant local authorities with regard to that land or the real estate or the apartment or whatsoever. Then you can check non-vesting certificate, street line certificate, building line certificate, certificate of conformity. I will discuss this with you. Non-vesting certificate means when this is under local authority, the owner of the land has to pay taxes to the local authority, municipal taxes or any kind of name. Then if the previous owner has not paid the relevant due with regard to that land, then what will happen? The local authority is the local authority will take over that land. Then in other words, legal term, we are saying that land will be vested in the local authority. So you have to be very careful in that way, whether there is no something like that. If there's something like that, then there's a huge problem, because the owner in that situation will be the local authority, not you. That is another burning issue you have to think of. Another thing, there are street line certificates, building line certificates. Those are the things that to which extent your land belonging to the road, or whether there are constructions available on the land which belonging to the street line or the building line. So in that situation, there's a restriction that you can build a construction upon to a certain level on your own land. So the other part will be belonging to the government. You cannot construct anything within that state line area. If you are constructing something, then you will not get compensated a later time when they come to demolish it. So you have to be very careful in that situation. Also, your extent of land also could be reduced in the future if the government take over that part, the state line part. Another thing, COC, that is certificate of conformity, which means you have to check if there is a building in the on the land, then whether that building is in compliance with the plan of the local authority. If that is not complying with the plan of the local authority, then there is no any conformity, which means that there is no any conformity to the plan. So in that situation, there is no any certificate of conformity. Then there's a huge problem. The local authority can demolish your building. You have to be very, very careful in that situation also, because this, as I earlier said, you are investing a huge buck of money against the land or the real estate or the apartment. So these are things very, very important. I have witnessed most of people got lost with these things. Another thing, drainage line. Drainage lines means let's say there's a drainage area has been named by the local authority. Then you cannot construct anything upon that drainage line. If you are constructing, then they can demolish it at a loss of your side. Again, some people trying to get lands from the coastal areas. So in that situation, you have to get the permission of the coastal reservation department, because if you are not getting any permission, then they will demolish. They have the legal right to demolish your building if you are building something around the coastal reservation area near to the sea. Another thing, some people are trying to buy the land from the protected areas or the reserved areas, reserved forests. These days we can see so many forests are clearing off some different parties. So there are reserved forests, Singharaj, there are so many likewise reserved forests. So when you are buying a land nearby a reserved forest, you have to be very careful. There are restrictions. So you have to sometimes get permission. Sometimes you cannot build a constructions within a certain extent from that reserved forest. If you are constructing, that will be subject to demolition. That part also you have to be very careful in your mind. Another thing, in Colombo, as an example, in Colombo municipal area, a land shall not be less than 6 purchases. Shall not be less than 6 purchases. Likewise, there are different kind of land extent that minimally this much you have to purchase. If not, that is not a valid extent a land that can be registered. So that part also you have to see when you are going to buy a land. Also, when you are trying to construct an apartment, you are going to buy a land to construct an apartment on that land, then that extent shall be minimum 20 purchases. Likewise, as I earlier said, there are extent. You have to be very careful. You can get to know those things from the relevant local authority. Another part, there are specific areas. Specific areas means sometimes, as an example, within the municipal area of Colombo, there are places allocated only for commercial purposes. Sometimes only for residential purposes. Sometimes for residential and commercial both. Then when you want to make a business, but you are buying a land from a residential area, then there's a problem. You cannot make a business, hold a business within a residential area. You cannot construct a factory within a residential area. Likewise, those restrictions also you have to be very, very careful. The other step what I want to share with you, to get away from fraudulent things, or you have to be very careful with your deeds, and also how to invest your money in that situation. The next step, having a proper execution of the deed, which means, let's say all the previous steps are all right. Now you are happy, you checked in the land registry, you got the deed, you checked with the local authorities, you checked with the other parties, you obtain, you check that everything under control. Now everything nice and neat, and the price also you are okay, uh, according to your requirements. The final step is you have to get a notary public and sign the deed. In that part also you have to be very, very careful, because you don't know how to execute a deed. That legal knowledge mainly with the notaries. So in that situation, uh, the law under land of the island is Prevention of Frauds Ordinance, section 2. It says that if there is something related to real estate or a land, then a notary public has to attest that document with 2 witnesses, and also the executant shall also be at the same place, same time. Let's say you are trying to buy a land, then a deed of transfer coming into the scenario. Deed of transfer is the deed, specific deed you are going to get in that situation. So under which you are going to sign the deed, the vendor or the seller coming to sign the deed, then notary is also there, 2 witnesses also should be there. The person who is the seller should be very mindful at that situation, because let's say he is a person, is not a not a situation with a good mindfulness, not a situation with a good understanding what he is doing, then there's a problem, because in the future that deed transaction could be terminated. You have to be very careful his mental situation also. Other thing, you have to get a good explanation from the notary. What is there in the deed, what is the land, who are the parties, what if there are any conditions, what are those, everything the notary public is obliged to explain to you. At the end of the deed, it has been mentioned that the notary public shall read to the parties present what are there in the deed. So you are legally entitled to get a good description about that deed. Other thing, you have to be very careful, the 2 witnesses being present at the deed signing occasion shall be known to the executant. Executant means vendor, the seller. Seller is the party who is signing on the deed of transfer. So those 2 witnesses shall know what is the name of the seller, what is the address, what is his occupation. Those things also very important to fulfill the legal requirements. If they don't know, then that we can argue that could not, there is no any proper execution of a deed. Then even though you paid your valuable hard-earned money, in the future someone come into the scenario and say your deed is not valid, and they can go to the district court and obtain an order. So you have to be very careful in that part also. Other thing, in Sri Lanka, even though Sri Lanka is a small country, there are some laws: Teswalme law, Kandyan law, Muslim law, so on. So you have to check, especially in terms of the Teswalme law. Teswalme law, you have to be very careful. Actually, these are the things a notary public should be very careful. But as a party of this transaction, you also should be cautious of these things. Sometimes notary publics are also very busy, very kind of busy people. They have so many deeds, they have court works, and sometimes they forget those kind of things. So you, as the party concerned in this matter, you have to know these things, whether the notary is doing his job properly. So if there's a Tamil person coming as the seller, you have to check whether he's governing under the Teswalme law, because there are restrictions under that law. As an example, if there's a woman under Teswalme law, then if she is even though she is disposing a property belonging to her, she has to get the written consent from her husband. Likewise, there are restrictions under Teswalme law. You have to be very careful in that situation. Normally, what we are advising in that situation, if there's a Tamil person, then we are which means we have to get an affidavit from that Tamil person saying that he is not governed under Teswalme law. Likewise, there are some preliminary guidelines that we have to follow. You have to check whether those getting fulfilled. Then we can go through some case law authorities. There are so many case law authorities about land matters. The things we have to be very careful. One thing, prescriptive title. I think all of you have heard about prescription. In Sinhala we say කාලාව රෝදී වෙනවා. එහෙම නැත්නම් කාලයට හිලව් වෙනවා ඉඩමක්. Likewise, when someone possesses a land for 10 years, then he can argue that he is entitled to the prescriptive title to that property. There are so many case laws for that also. So you have to be very careful if you are going to buy a land, whether that land is subject to a prescriptive title also, because someone can come to the courts and trying to declare their title through the prescription, even though they don't have a proper paper title. So those things also there. So there's a case law, Don Peter Ranasinghe versus PK Nandasekara and others, SC Appeal 33, 2010, Supreme Court Law Reports, 2018, delivered judgment. It says, since the appellant's father Nandasekara did not acquire prescriptive title to the property, those who received from Nandasekara cannot get any acquired prescriptive title at all. Which means if there is someone who has not obtained the prescriptive title, let's say he only possesses the land for 8 years, not 10 years, then according to the law, that is the section 3 of the Pension of Products Ordinance, according to that section, he is not entitled to claim for prescriptive title. Then the other party coming after that, that's the successor of that party, cannot claim, or successor or the purchaser from that party could not claim the prescriptive title as such. Likewise, there are so many case law authorities in that part. Also, another thing I want to address with you, the consideration. When you are executing a deed of transfer or whatsoever, basically you have to pay something. Pay something means pay the value of the land. In that situation, some people would not pay the total amount, sometimes a half amount. Then the notary has to mention that part in the deed. Before me, this much of money has been paid to the seller. Likewise, by money or by a check. So if there's a balance amount, then most of times that has been mentioned in the deed. For your protection, you can have an agreement for that balance amount or another kind of method for your protection you can have. Having said that, though the balance amount was not paid, you would not be able to revoke that deed or the cancel that deed. Only option available with you is going to the district court, file a money recovery action for that balance part, or make a police complaint, those kind of things. So likewise, there are things you should get familiar with when it comes to execution of deeds. So I'd like to address your concerns. If you have any doubts further, I can go through with the questions. So Tarindu, are there any questions that I can address?
Yes, Kasun, thank you very much for your valuable sharing. And there are a few questions we have received. And yes, this is from Mr. Indika Rajapaksha. He has asked a question. I'm going to buy a land which is a gift. It should be a deed of gift. So what things I should be care of? That's his question.
Good question, Tarindu. In that situation, when it comes to a deed of gift, normally a deed of gift can be executed based on the affection or the love. Let's say I'm the father, I am son, I'm gifting my land to my son. So that is based on affection, love, care, not anything commercial transaction or not based on any kind of another thing. Likewise, that's the main criteria when it comes to a deed of gift. Also, at the same time, when you are executing a deed of gift, normally the donor sometimes holding his life interest against that deed of gift. In that situation, the purchaser of that land after the deed of gift was executed, then at a later time another person come in to buy that land by your deed of transfer, then he has to be very careful whether that life interest is there or not. If that life interest is there, then prior to his purchase, I think the best thing is cancel that, get cancelled that life interest part. So by way of a deed, that can also be done. Another thing, there could be a deed in the nature saying that this deed of gift could be revoked without any reason or without reason. In that situation also, you have to be very careful, because after you purchase from that donee of the relevant deed of gift, then the original donor of the deed of gift would claim that he has the legal right to cancel that transaction altogether. Another thing, there are deed of gifts saying that that is an irrevocable deed of gift. Even though that is an irrevocable deed of gift, there is a recent act, revocation of irrevocable deed of gifts based on ingratitude. So based on ingratitude, within 10 years after the execution of the deed of gift, still that donor has the legal right to revoke that deed of gift, which means he is revoking that deed of gift means all the deeds coming after that deed of gift will be automatically be revoked. So you have to be very careful when it comes to deal with a deed of gift. The best advice I can give, try to revoke his life interest by another deed, or or try to make that donor a party to your transaction, to your mortgage or to your deed of transfer or the transaction you are dealing with that land. Try to always get that donor a party to that transaction. So in that situation, he cannot we cannot get the protection that in as because he is a party of that transaction. Now he cannot revoke, saying that I want to revoke this. So that protection also with you. Other thing I want to share with you, let's say there's a campaign, then that campaign also can grant a deed of gift or can receive a deed of gift. In that situation, that should be subject to the article of association and the relevant resolutions. I think Tharindu, you got the answer. Is it clear?
Yes, Kasun. There's another question asking from Mr. Shanmuganathan. I'm living in UK and recently I executed a land purchase in Sri Lanka. And what is asking, once the deed is directed to the land registry, is it mandatory to follow it up?
Yeah, definitely, Tharindu. It's very, very mandatory because most of people sometimes what I have seen is they are just signing the deed and handing over to the notary, paying the money. I think everything is right. They think everything is right. Then they leave and they are happy. That is not the thing. You have to follow up with the land registry. Land registry means 24 hours you don't want to go to the land registry. What you want to do is this thing. Once the notary public direct that deed, relevant deed to the land registry, you have to get the registered copy from the land registry. That sometimes notary public will give you, or you can go personally and get it. After which you can check through your notary or personally or through another party from the land registry whether that deed has been registered in the relevant folio. Folio means there are different folios, volumes in the book of the land registry. So you have to check whether that deed has been registered in the relevant volume relevant to this land. If that is not there, sometimes that could have been registered in another volume. Then that would be terrible. Because why I'm saying like that then we can argue that registration is not belonging to this land. This is to another land. Then later on, if someone come in and register another deed in the relevant volume, what will happen? He's the person who's the owner, not you. So there are so many cases I have seen in the Supreme Court also addressing that matter. So you have to make a follow-up session. Tharindu, I think you got it.
Yes, Kasun, thank you. And we'll take one more question, and that's from Lalanta Ratnayaka. Actually, what he's asking is, after we executed the power of attorney in Sri Lanka to make a property transaction, what will happen if the attorney holder, maybe the power of attorney holder, misuse it?
Yeah, Tharindu, that's also a burning issue. Sometimes we can see in Sri Lanka a person, most of times living in abroad, he does not have the facility to visit Sri Lanka most of times. Then he's getting the support of a person, sometimes a family member, a friend, close person to him, and executing a power of attorney. He can execute that power of attorney being in that foreign country. Then we can register that in our land registry and get done. Then, which means he is giving the power through a power of attorney through to the person whom he wants. In that situation, he can misuse it. we cannot guarantee that he would not misuse it, because the person actually, Tarindu, that person getting selected by the person in the foreign country based on the trust. He trusts that person. So because of the fact that he trusts that person, he delegated his power to buy a land, sell a land or whatever. He has delegated his power, saying he can do the things what he wants, because he has appointed, because we have not appointed that person. That principal person in the foreign country has appointed that person. So obviously he has appointed based on the trust, because he trusts that person. So in such a situation, let's say he misuses that power, then what he can do immediately, what my advice is, immediately write a letter to that power paternity holder and to the land registry, instructing that with immediate effect I'm revoking the power of the power paternity holder. Then there's a protection for you, because in a courthouse or in a legal authority, you can mention that fact, saying that you have sent a letter and you have expressed your intention to revoke that power of attorney authority from that person. At the same time, try to uh, process to terminate that power pattern. You can get the support of a lawyer in Sri Lanka, and you can proceed to do so that. So those are the things. Also, at the same time, you can make a police complaint against that person. Those things you can do in such a situation. I think that answer is clear.
Yes, thank you very much, Kasun, for your wonderful sharing, and actually valued it. And actually, we have received so many questions from our participants, but due to their time constraint, we cannot entertain any further. So what we will do is we will reply you individually, so you will get the answer from Kasun for your individual questions. Thank you very much, Kasun, for joining with us today.
Thank you, Tarindi, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kasun, for providing us that information and giving awareness about scams and how to avoid them. So, Tharundu, I think it has been a delighted day for us, especially yesterday and day before yesterday. It was very talking about our virtual expo. So we have got several visitors and good feedback from the developers as well. So I would like to invite you all to visit the virtual expo section. Just type in lpw.lk/events and you can browse through the top developments and special offers. And especially remember that today is the last day that you can get the special offers, and by midnight, if you submit your interest before midnight, you can actually get that special offers from the developers. If not, you will miss it out. So please check it out, and we invite you again to go to the experience center and feel the 3D walkthroughs and everything. Tharindu?
Yes, of course, Isuru. So we have Modernized Square and so many other developers, who are offering wonderful discounts where you won't get from anywhere else. So stay tuned and make you a virtual reality, and go and drag those opportunities today itself. And I hope all of you will join us today evening session as well. Have a good afternoon.
Yes, talking about the evening session, actually, it's a very special event, especially for those who are looking forward to becoming a landlord and those who are currently being a landlord and whatnot. So it's another extension that you could avenue that you could talk about when it comes to creating wealth and whatnot. What do you think, Tarun?
Yes, of course, Isuru. So today evening, we're going to talk about how to be a landlord and how to make some good profit out of it. And yes, stay tuned for that session as well. Over to you, Isuru.
Yes, thank you, Tarindu. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us this 1.5, almost 1.5 hours. So see you at 3 today in the final session of the this event, and hopefully we could see you there as well. Thank you.